Hello and welcome to another unboxing video from Break for Assault. I'm Lee now recording from somewhere in the South of England, and today I'm taking a look at the new US Marine Corps Rifle Company box set. Ever since Pete's Christmas reveal of the next year's upcoming releases, we've been teased these new Battlefront hard plastics for Team Yankee for quite a while, with both an American and Soviet set coming, of which they've now been released, I'm pleased to say, of which we're seeing in these army boxes. We always kind of expected to do a US mechanised box and a Soviet mechanised box. What we weren't expecting was this curveball of a US Marine Corps box. And additionally to all that, we also got another unexpected item with the actual M60 with era armour, which again is one of those Gulf War kind of stand-ins you expect. Now Battlefront were kind enough to sending me the US Rifle Platoon and a Soviet Motor Platoon box. But in the meantime, friend of the podcast, Mike Everest, picked up the US Marine Corps box on pre-order and said, do you want to have a look at it and do an unbox? I said, yes please. So we're going to crack that open and take a look inside. But first let's just have a quick talk about the actual theming of it, because it's very interesting. And it's the first time I think they've done this. They've actually themed the army. It's the first time that for Team Yankee, they don't before for World War II game. They themed it around an actual battle, with it being themed very much on the Desert Storm. Everything's painted up in nice desert colours. Apparently, as we'll see when we open it, apparently the objectives and the unit cards are themed as well. And that's a kind of interesting little thing, because obviously the books have touched on the actual real Iran-Iraq wars. They touched on the real Gulf War. But it's the first time I've actually seen explicitly a box cover it. So yeah, that's what I'd like to see him do more often actually. Obviously in the World War II game, all the army boxes are themed around a regular unit, or certainly the new D-Day boxes are. And it's kind of a cool thing. Any kind of theming is always going to be a vote winner, in my opinion. Anyway, that's enough wittering for me. Let's open this box, take a look inside, and we'll talk more about it. Okay, opening up. As you can see, it's one of the bigger, fatter army boxes. First thing out is Team Yankee rulebook, plus decals and unit cards. Forward sheets in there, you've got the Huey ones and some other bits and pieces. The Start Here guide obviously is themed around this book. Shows you the units. Obviously, the usual instructions, blow-up diagrams. Bit in the back is interesting, talks about expanding the forces. Shows the transport options, and of course, mandatory Harriers. Or AH6 or A6 intruders if you fancy going that way. Next, and we'll give it a little bit of a tug here. We get the M60 out. Did I mention it's a very packed box? It was a very packed box. Next up, we got the crew for the Humvee. One thing to note is it's a 4 crew stack, so you've got the Stingers as well. We then get the actual infantry sprues. Here's the first 3. So this is the standard Dragon and Sword teams. That makes up a big chunk of the box. We then have the Humvees. So you've got 2 of those. Set up as, like I say, for the tow teams, but you can use the Stinger. Just get a shift the box out of the way for the second. Now we've got the 4th of the infantry sprues. And so you get 4 of those. And we also get 4 of the other type. Here's the first 2. And these sprues contain the SMOR, the M60s, the mortar teams, and also some more of the actual saw teams. Got 4 lavs, gives you a nice little recce unit for the unit. And I think that's the M109's mantle there, so we're going to put it over there. Because next up is the M109s. We get 3 of those, which is enough for a minimum size battery. Generally all you need. I don't think you need 6. Some AH1s, which you can give to the army player because they're completely wrong for the US Marine Corps. Flying base. Sidecast turrets. We'll touch on those more in a minute. We then get the objectives. We get the bases. Some rotor blades. Yep, there's the rotor blades. Just throw them on there. And of course, bubble wrap. We love our bubble wrap. And yeah, there you are. Empty box. Quite a lot stuffed in there. Trust me, I accidentally dropped Mike's box out and it was very hard getting it all back in. So now we've into the box, let's take a look at the new content. So we're going to put the lavs, the M60s, AH1s and the M109s aside for a second. Let's focus instead on the 8 new infantry sprues, the decals, the unit cards, objective markers, and the signer cast M60 upgrade parts. The signer cast parts basically consist of 3 elements. You have a new turret top, including a bustle mount at the back, a new mantlet with the era armour on the top, and then a whole era armour package. The signer cast has a few issues. We'll see it a bit more when we actually build in a second. I like the fact it has their extra stowage built into the bustle. So you can see just on this photo here, the road wheels, some bed packs, that kind of thing. There's a J cam poking out. Only problem is towards the bottom of the the turret, you can see that the actual detail breaks down somewhat. Similar on the bustle, the actual detail on the bustle, like the ribs and the neck texture, breaks down as well. Like I say, we'll look at slightly more in a second. The decals consist of 3 sheets. You got the Cobra sheet, which is basically more Vietnam orientated and certainly more army orientated. We've got the standard tank decal marking with their chevrons and numbers and kill marking bands. And we have this new sheet, which is very much optimised, as far as I can tell, for the Sea Stallion. Certainly the YN markings align with HMH 361, the Flying Tigers, who operate the Sea Stallion. Roundels have the super low vis markings they used during the Gulf War, the dotted kind of outline, as it were. And you can see the rotor and exhaust markings as well as in ring core. Only thing I haven't been able to work out is the large Ace of Spades. Now, Ace of Spades is certainly associated with VMA 231, who are called the Ace of Spades. They're a Harrier outfit operated during the Gulf War. But the current Harrier decal sheet already has their Ace of Spades markings, which is more like the Ace of Spades on a card in a circle. So I'm not quite sure what these large Ace of Spades markings are for. It's quite a nice decal sheet to have in for, like, say, if you go get the Sea Stallion later. And you can probably repurpose certainly the marine markings for Cobras, though the Gulf War Cobras tend to be overpainted over the grey, often overpainting the actual roundel, which is quite interesting. So you partially see the roundel in the grey areas, but not the sand-coloured areas. But it's a handy little decal sheet. Like I say, I know when I looked at Sea Stallion, I bemoaned the fact there's no decal sheet, so I'm glad they finally have done one. If you're going to purchase a Sea Stallion later, it's quite handy. The unit cards, like I said, are really Gulf War themed. You can see here that they are showing a picture of a Humvee in the Gulf War style camo, desert camo with the chevron marking. You effectively get a unit card for each of the US Marine Corps elements of their America World War III book. So you've got the Humvees, the Lavs, the M60s, the Cobras, AV-8Bs, and the M9s. Only thing missing, because technically I think they don't count it as Marine yet, is the Stinger unit, even though the Marines did have dismounted Stingers and the like. So a little bit of a mission there, not a major one, but like I say, as it's often taken instead of a Lav AD, which just appeared to the 90s, it's kind of a bit of annoyance, but a little minor one. The tokens are really quite neat. So they are basically, as you can see here, the gold theming is in the background colour of like the desert tan with the chevron marking. It's got like a little weathered look to it, which is quite cool. And you get, like say, a normal complement of ranged in markers, pinned down, at least one Marfil counter. I saw maybe 2 in there. And then the objective markers as well. Objective markers being the flat acrylic type, which are quite handy if you're going to have a scenic one to have underneath, just so you can take it out of the way when there's line of sight arguments and the like. Finally, let's take a look at the actual infantry. Again, there's 2 sprues in here. You've got a standard sprue, which has the officer, a radio man, and then 2 saw teams, which has a saw gunner, a 203 gunner, a guy with a law either stowed or ready, and then a rifleman. The sprue also has the dragon team, which consists of a dragon gunner, which is a multi-part setup, so you can capture him in his sitting pose, as well as a loader for the dragon, who's basically in a running pose with a round in the back, which doesn't quite marry up with the guy sitting down firing the round. I guess it's kind of cool to have it as an alternative Dragon gunner running with it loading its back. I don't know. Interestingly, you get 2 of the missiles which are set up for going on the back of the guy, so you could have one on the ground as a spare round and have one of the kneeling figures off the second sprue, which I'm going to mention now, which is the second sprue. It's a special sprue, so it has no 2 sword gunners on, but no Dragon team this time. You get a small gunner, which is a long like bazooka thing, like equivalent of a Carl Gustav. You have an M60 team, which is a gunner with a tube and then a loader dropping around in, and you get an M60 gunner, as well as 2 kneeling figures which are shown accompanying the M60 gun, but obviously could accompany anything else. You could use these guys, say with the Dragon, as we just mentioned. So the figures themselves are really nice, very crisp, very well captured, quite dynamic posing, especially on the actual M16 gunners. You can see a sort of twisting at the torso and that kind of thing. Very little infill. It's a very cleverly done sprue. I think I'll go into a bit more detail and show the actual photos later. But yeah, if this is the direction the hard plastics are taking, then it's a very good direction. It bodes very well for the future of the hard plastic infantry. So let's now look at the M60. We'll assemble one up, put the side cast on, and see how it looks all assembled. Okay, so we're going to take a look at building the M60 with the era armour package on. As you can see here, I've built one up already. We're going to start with an assembled M60 hull, along with an assembled M60 cupola. The Americans weren't using the low profile Israeli cupola on this version. We also have the base plate from the original M60, turret base plate, and the 105mm unsleeved barrel. Marines were still using an unsleeved variant here. To this, we have the 3 parts of the Sinocast era system. The replacement turret top, which, as you can see, has the stowage on the back. It's not a separate part. We have replacement mantle with the era system on, and also the bow armour, upper armour system. So, like I say, building the hull, standard. Building the cupola was all standard. You just follow standard assembly instructions for that. Nice and simple. With the turret and obviously side cast, you have to use super glue rather than polystyrene cement. This I assume you have. Someone's going to tell me in the comments that actually you can use poly cement. That'd be interesting to know. So we're going to put some super glue all the way around the sort of lip of the turret, and we're going to fit this on. Now, what I found building the first tank was that it can be a bit of a gap form, but if you clamp it down with a carpenter's clamp, that will fix that problem nice and easily. Basically just deforms the sino down a bit to the actual mould of the turret. So you can see here, that's just in there. Whilst we're doing that, we can go back to the turret hole. Go put a little bit of super glue along here, where the actual sort of shape of the actual bow armour sits. A little bit down here where it overlaps onto the bottom. And again, that just goes on like that. Now I did notice on the last one that it does bow out a little bit. So again, you're just going to want to apply a little bit of positive pressure there, just to keep it on while it sort of takes the form of the actual hole. Again, a clamp might be a good idea here, or some elastic bands or something, just to get to perform nicely. I'm going to hold it here for a second and see if that does it. Yeah, more or less. I might just go back to that in a sec. Alright, going back to here. Make sure that's all the way around. Make sure that's all the way around. Go here, put on the replacement mantle. Just going to go on like that. As you can see here, this one compared to the last one I built has got a bit of a gap around the front. You can see here, not the end of the world for a little bit of green stuff, but obviously a job to do. Okay, click over here, put in our unsleeved 105mm barrel, make sure that looks okay. And then on here, we're just going to fit the capola like that. So, allowing for obviously building up the lower hull, which isn't exactly a huge job, it's only about 4 parts, 5 parts, 6 parts. Let's go 6 parts. We end up with that. Yeah, so that gives you an idea how it goes together. Obviously, like I say, because we have the Sinocast here, the fit is a little bit variable. Like I said, in the first one built, I didn't have this problem with the gap here, so we'll have to look at that. In fact, in general, this one looks probably fine actually. Like I said, probably what I do is I go back and put a clamp on it in a sec. Obviously it builds quicker because you don't have to go through the rigmarole building the 3 bits of the actual bustle on. But obviously the downside is the bustle, this one's not too bad actually, this one's got a bit of detail. The other one, yeah, so you can see here, this one is not quite as crisp as that one there is. And it does seem to be that variability in the actual finish, as it were. On this one here, again, there's a little chunk taking out the era blocks here, which is not ideal. And I'll finish along here. This one doesn't seem to be suffering from the problem that one does, with the mould line cutting across. So the Sinocast is not fantastic, I'm going to be honest. Bit of disappointment when you consider the T64 and all that have a plastic upgrade sprue with era package on. I got a feeling this might have been a late decision on Battlefront's part and they didn't have time for hard plastic tooling. I can't quite see why economically it wouldn't make as much sense as, say, the T72 or certainly the T64. T72 obviously is used by quite a few people, the option of having the B version. T64 is just the Soviets, and the T80 kind of pips it a little bit. So yeah, obviously we're buying this kit mainly for the infantry, and as we'll go on to a bit later, the infantry are pretty damn fantastic. The M60s with the Gulf Warrior on is a kind of almost an added bonus, but you know, it's an added bonus we are paying for, so we do have a, you know, not an unreasonable right to expect it to, you know, have a decent fit. So yeah, that is the M60. Obviously the Hueys, the Lavs, M109s, Humvees, they all go together pretty much as before. There's been no change in their kits to allow for it. Any Gulf War variations, I don't think there would be. Only thing it would be nice if the AH1 had been the actual Super Cobra version. But it's kind of hard for, even though I'm not going to begrudge Battlefront for not actually putting that in as a kit, as it were. So let's talk about the value of the box. The box retails full recommended retail price of £90. You can get it for much cheaper than that. Most places are out 10%. If you look around eBay, you can find it going for as low as about £70. Breaking down the contents, you have 2 rifle companies. They retail for £20 each, full recommended price. You have 2 Cobras, that's £24. You have 5 M60s, that's £40. That's 104 quid already. So already, you know, anything after this is now gravy, effectively. For Lavs, 5 of those, £40. You get 4, but then again you get two Humvees, so it compensates. 3 M109s, £24. And then the unit cards, about £10. Obviously you don't get a full pack here. You only get the Marine Corps ones, but still. So you've got between 168, 178 pounds worth of kit, depending on how you value that, plus the ejector markers thrown in as well, plus 4 decal sheets. I think they're about £10 these days. So that £90 box is bringing twice its value to the table. I don't think that is easily dismissed. It certainly turns this into a spur of the moment decision to, if you're going to start a new army, it's a pretty good way of doing it. Now, when you consider that, all of a sudden, when you go back to the M60s, okay, so they're soft plastic, Sinocast, what you want to call it, parts. They have a little bit of a fit issue, but the clamps seem to solve that, so I'm not going to hold that too much against it. Obviously, they have a bit of quality issue breaking down the side and the rear, due to the drop cast methods not quite capturing the detail of the bustle or the lower half of the era. But the bits are practically free at this point. I mean, you can throw them away and just build standard M60s. And I think having built now 10 M60s with this kit on, because Mike was kind of donated and I picked my own box off to eBay, you can, I think by the time you put stowage in it on, it will hide most of the issues you get on the side casting. Now, doesn't fully excuse it. It would be nice to see a hard plastic kit, but as a spur of the moment, we're doing a Desert Storm box. I suspect this is what happened knowing Battlefront. Let's quickly knock up some Sinocast Gulf War M60 bits. Hey, let's go with it. I'm happy with that. Maybe we'll see a hard plastic kit come out with the IDF book in the tail end of the year. I suspect the Sinocast is what's going to be it now. But, you can take that and use it as a start. Let's say hide the breakdown at the bottom bits with the stowage. Knock up the missing hull plates with some plasticard. Of course, the real star of the show, and the whole reason this box exists, is the infantry. It's hard not to throw too much praise at this infantry because it's kind of exceptional. Taking them off the sprue, I was surprised there was literally no mould lines, or very, 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 very faint mould lines. When I looked at the ones I was painting, I looked with the magnifying glass and I could just about see where the moulds come together. There is some dark art stuff going on here to get that going on. And of course, there might be a fresh mould as well, it's undoubtedly helping. You also have the actual dynamicism of the poses. There's some really good posing going on here. I like the guys with the M16s tucked or pivoting at the hip to fire the guns. They're a bit more lively than, say, the sort of early first gen plastics we saw, going all the way back to PSC, going to the first Battlefront ones. It's really come a long way. So it's quite amazing that generally these models are being only supported by the base. Very few other supports going onto the model, like say, which makes it a lot easier because you haven't got all the things like that. Again, like say, also Battlefront haven't held back and given you half companies or anything like that. You've got 2 full strength companies with the optional weapons, with the dragons. It's a very compelling reason. We're going to start doing this Marine Corps, or I will point this out, 82nd Airborne. And you go, Lee, 82nd Airborne, but what are you going to do with the LAVs? Well, during the Gulf War, 82nd Airborne actually had about a dozen LAVs on loan from the US Marine Corps. They're trying it out as a replacement to Sheridan. So you could have a force of Sheridans, you could have a force with some LAVs in as well. Obviously, Hueys are the correct model for their army rather than the US Marine Corps, which probably is never gripe this box. But that's only because I am a complete airhead. I really want my AH1W or AH1T rather than this AH1S we got in the box. So obviously the rifle companies are about the same size in terms of infantry count. They don't have the small teams. They do have the additional M60s, Dragons, and the mortar. So I think that's, again, something to consider. It's probably a bit of an overkill box if you want to buy this infantry for a mech team. You just don't get enough Dragon teams. You're probably better off buying a mech box anyway. But if this is the direction Battlefront going now, the hard plastic infantry, and we already know they're looking at British infantry for Team Yankee, looking at West German infantry for Team Yankee, I'm almost certain we're going to see the same technology being used for early war when that rolls out. I think Pacific's going to be metal from what they said previously. Then this bodes very well. This Polish company they're using, I'm saying that because I say made in Poland, so a bit of a clue there, seems to know their stuff, and they are, like I say, doing a lot of taking a lot from the Games Workshop playbook. The figures, the way they're mounted on the sprue looks very much like how you see the bits with the sort of GW stuff. It's all that kind of very off angle, very tightly packed sprues. So up next, I'm going to hopefully be receiving the Soviet Motor Rifle Company. That's going to be coming from Battlefront, so that's just the infantry, no tanks or anything like that. So we'll take a look at those. I'm also going to try and force myself to get this Resistance finished, and I'll probably scratch my plan of doing some Battletech or Legion and PRIs next and go plunging straight into some Desert Storm. I really enjoy painting the test stand you can see spinning around here. So I really want to sort of build on that and get us a table. Anyway, as always, please leave your comments below. Anything you feel I'm missing here or counterpoints, always welcome. Or feedback. Feedback's good. Never have too much feedback. Like and subscribe to keep up with our content. Obviously, you had the guys doing eyes and ears, live casts every so often. I'll be doing some more unboxings. Mark is occasionally putting up various little bits and pieces as well. So staying true to the channel is always going to be something brewing a lot long. We probably don't put out as often as we want to, but yeah, it's worth the wait. I also me and Mike are also planning to do another time of day at some point. We'll try and discuss what we're going to cover, possibly the new airborne boxes, update the tier list and all that. You guys seem to like tier list updates. So yeah, this is Lee Parnell signing off for Break for Assault. I'll catch you all later.